All right, we're on. Good morning, Myna. Welcome to the SHEROES Hangout.
Oh, thank you, Sari. Good morning to you too.
And thank you so much for making the time. And this is a conversation that we've been looking forward to for a while. I think this is something that crops up, in our line of work pretty much every day. There comes a woman we talk to. Uh, I think are in the middle of a lot of transitions, and IT transitions is a significant segment. Just to give you a sense of perspective, uh, uh, about 60% of women within the SHEROES network are engineers. And what typically transpires is that career transitions in technology are slightly more harder because you don't want to go into generalist kind of jobs, or you definitely need to always stay ahead of your game, irrespective of who you are, whether you're an imaging professional, whether you write code, or whether you're doing database management, or you run SAP implementations. Irrespective of what you did in technology, chances are a transition is slightly more harder, and your ecosystem slightly underdeveloped in that context. So technology per se is quite developed, but it is not really attuned to helping manage transition. So we do a little bit of work in that context, and I think today's conversation largely uh, is centered around that.
Okay.
Okay. So let me begin by, I think, letting everyone out there know a little more about you. I know you've just joined our mentor board, and thank you for that. But tell us a little more about yourself, Myna. Take us through your career journey. I know you yourself managed quite a bit of ambition, and you've stayed connected to technology, certainly. Yeah,
Yes.
tell us more.
Well, I have kind of a very varied background, I must say. I'm an engineer, like most women out there. I studied in metallurgical engineering, actually, which was it's a very fundamental sciences, but also not very attuned to women, I guess. But
Yeah.
I did, my father has always run his own business in foundry technologies. So that was my attraction to those physical sciences. So I my master's also from US Ohio State University in the same material science. But once I graduated, actually jobs in these fundamental sciences, especially in the US, were very far and few, and weren't paying very well either. I did start off with a small company that did with polymers, but then I quickly transitioned to I2 Technologies, which is then worked with the supply chain management software. I started as a support engineer and quickly grew up to being a product manager. Especially in the US and in the IT sector, it is true that the management, like you were mentioning, is fairly horizontal. So there is no resource management as much, but I took over the product management for the strategic planning software. I did that for about 7 years, and when India was calling me back. I always wanted to be work with my dad. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I think run my own business. I joined him. A very bad time for manufacturing. It was a lot of learning. I must say. I actually kind of ran our show. I was here during the 2008 slump, which was pretty bad for manufacturing. Kind of brought it up. But like again, most women out there, I had two kids between all this. And after the second, I said, I cannot be so intensely involved in career. Business is very commanding on personal life too. So I had to take a break. That was about a year and a half of break that I took recently, and I've been back for the last 6 months now. I started with Venturesity, which is the startup. I think being in Bangalore, that is definitely something I wanted to experience, work in a startup. Education is something, again, that I have been very, passionate about. I haven't taught, but I've always, wanted to do something in that space. Venture City fits the bill for me. I work with a bunch of young people, energetic, wanting to do more. And again, like Sari, you rightly said, technology is not something that we've always been connected to. I did supply chain management then, and that too was a strategic planning software. So I've always been involved in software. but of course more on the functional side. I must say I have never coded in my life, but I don't think that needs to keep you away from the IT industry, which is like the fastest growing and, like you said, the fastest transitioning industry. And today I'm here in Bangalore, and I started out here too as a senior advisor. You know, in a startup, again, you kind of take the role that is needed for, for the day. I came in as a senior advisor, which was part time. I said, I still have to fight, discover myself, see if I'm ready to come back. But from day one, it hasn't been part time. I mean, I have like kind of been here all the time. They call me whatever. I wear different hats at different times. But I've taken over again more of the product delivery. We do online education services over here, and I'm doing more of the productization of the delivery, which again kind of goes back to my forte. That's what I've always done in my work profile. So yeah, that's a little bit about myself.
Very exciting. I saw a little nugget of conversation there. I'll come back to that in a minute. Uh, so I think very interesting that one, you are in an education slash skill building stuff. I won't call it training. I think that's too packaged. And second, you're sitting in Bangalore, working in a startup, and having done the technology transition from a Venturesity point of view, obviously a lot of thought has gone into building exactly what you're doing. A lot of you are always horizon gazing. You're figuring out the trends. What seem like the big changes in the IT industry in the last, say, 5 years or 10 years or over a period of time? What are the four, five big things that are ruling the horizon at this point?
If I have to clearly point out, again, as we were just talking, it has definitely moved from a services industry to more of a product industry. We have more emphasis on product building itself. New technologies like Android and the later web technologies like HTML5. These technologies have taken over. They've kind of, I think, what IT is now catering to is more the entrepreneurial self, where everybody wants, you want to establish yourself with a product. So even every service, I think, today needs to be productized. So everything is in the market where you're looking at it as a product. And again, as we were talking, it is more horizontally managed. So there are very few human resource management jobs within the IT industry. I mean, we all have a HR department. Some of the other things that has definitely happened is, we're moving into the cloud computing. People are talking about cloud technologies. We have the Azure and AWS. The other big growth that we have definitely seen is in the social media. So we have the digital marketing technologies, right from the SEO, which could be a little technical, to the content management, the Facebooking, the Pinteresting, whatever. No, there has been a lot of growth and diversification. We talk about marketing without using lesser, maybe intelligent marketing, targeted marketing. So data analytics, the abundance of data these days has naturally given rise to data analytics. There are a lot of jobs in that space, and something that goes back to pure sciences, I think, in some sense. Analytics is all about the math and the numbers behind it. So I would say there's a lot of growth. I think the latest that we're also hearing is the Internet of Things, which again is a product-based company. Now we are, while at one point IT had its own growth, we talked about IT and softwares to be disconnected from real life, or the gadgets that you use physically. I think that's coming together with the IoT, or the Internet of Things. We're seeing a lot of communities coming together over there. There are a lot of technologies that enable that. Every new player out there is looking at getting into that space too. So those are some of the newer places that we can see.
Absolutely. So, the sense I get is, and from our community point of view, I deeply find that a lot of what you just shared with us, Internet of Things, cloud computing, mobile, uh, most of these didn't exist if I started my career 10 years ago. 8 years ago, even 5 years ago for that matter.
Sure.
And
Right.
I'd like to share some queries that we often receive from women who are transiting. So, and the way IT has been traditionally organized, you either wrote manuals, or you did QA testing, or you did code, or you managed the project, or you managed the customer facing side of the business, or you led large scale implementations. These are 4 or 5 big buckets from where skills came from. And this is the exact set of people who are saying, where do I go next? Or I'll give you a very common example. I worked on mainframes. What could I possibly do? Where do I reapply? Something like this. So, I mean, logically, one says, hey, if you did mainframes, maybe you should look at big data. Maybe you should look at analytics. You understand how these things talk to each other. But that's just a very overview level. Or if I was a QA tester sitting inside a company managing one very A to Z project, my need to fit into something that is uh, honestly uh, honestly done lucrative profession that signifies or anything that sort of doesn't fit in. So the desire to do well always stays, but the opportunities in the market, or at least in the open market, as I call it, are very few. What would you tell somebody like that? Somebody who's grappling with and the kind of job they possibly can do now.
So if I got you right, I'm sorry there was a little interruption. But if I got you right, you're wondering how people who have originally been in IT but not in the newer technologies and are grappling
Yes,
with, how to get
yes,
into something more relevant today,
yes,
right?
yes,
I must say, actually, I mean, like you again rightly said, I belong to one of those industries. I work in Venturesity. We basically do that. We pretty much do that, and ironically or not, been working with a lot of women communities actually, because I think what is happening in the IT with the new technologies is actually enabling the individual in you. I truly
yes,
believe that where services has got to do more with communities and groups of people and organization, where you
yes,
kind of it's more restricting or limiting in terms of time. I think the newer technologies are actually more liberating in time in terms of the limitations on personal time. I don't mean to say that you work less or you have less this one on time, command on time, but I think it gives certain amount of flexibility. So
yeah,
one of the things that any woman with a if she's even slightly inclined towards the new age communities that's going on would naturally take to is what we call digital marketing. Actually, it's one of those courses that is short. I've heard that people pay a lot out there for digital marketing professionals. The salaries go up to, if I'm not wrong, about 3 to 4 lakhs a month in India itself, because a lot of these e-commerce companies are based on their digital marketing call, or the strength pillar or whatever. So because internet is becoming so the reach of internet is so well understood now, digital marketing is definitely some technology that very adaptable for women, very adaptable for people who know something about technology but are more open to experimenting, working on their creativity. So it's not as closed as some of the other technologies, right? And I'm sure it's something that we enjoy. We love talking to people. It's actually just interacting with communities and coming up with newer ways of interaction. So that's one of those spaces. The other thing, as you rightly said, is the mobile technologies itself. These are, yes, a little based on some of the more fundamental technologies that we've known, like, if you know Java, for example, then your transition into one of these mobile technologies like Android is very, very easy. I mean, it's kind of natural. And again, we have complete businesses and companies, organizations run on Android app building and run out of Android apps. We here, for example, conduct courses on those. Those are relatively short and intense. So in a span of about 3 months, you could actually pick up the technology, brush up your skills in Java, and develop a application which is very relevant. Some of these applications that we have done is like a blood donation application, which kind of brings together the geo coordinates. So something that you can actually download from your app store. So that again is a very relevant technology that you can get into. The UI UX space also, because now we talk about a lot of product design based on the user interface, right? The customer experience. So again, for women who are involved, or who have an aesthetic sense and like to be involved in the design aspect, we find the UI UX space to be a very relevant space to move into. Basically, what again, like I said, what I find is that the newer technologies actually allow for a lot more creativity. What we as individuals, not just women, need to do today is actually make sure that our profiles are well showcased. Again, we have a lot of platforms for that. We have, the GitHubs and a lot of other platforms out there that you can use. Put up your projects online. If you've created an Android app, put it up on the Play Store. Now Nokia has come up with its own store. So just make your presence in technology felt. There are a lot of people who are looking for good technology people. And I do want to say, maybe with a pinch of apprehension, that IT is one space where I think the gender differentiation, you can overcome, because it's really your work which is, behind the screen. As long as you can be as competent with your work, with your deliverables, I don't think, I think we can definitely stand, shoulder to shoulder with men in this space. So I do find the newer technologies actually more enabling to women and individual workers than the huger, what do you say, the backpack of baggage of organizations and
Sure.
teams that we used to handle before.
Yeah. And given the fact there are more startups, more product startups than ever before.
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. And the startups is actually a very exciting space. Again, they are always looking for good talent. It's also a space where you can actually learn. I mean,
Yeah.
again, a little something about myself. As much as I had stayed abreast with technology, it isn't like I could just come. You, startups, they're all basically based on some new idea. So nobody comes and fits into the shoes perfectly. So all of us have to learn. So I think the attitude and the aptitude to learn these newer technologies, to kind of open up yourself to what's happening out there, is very important in today's industry, because it's also the I find that the product life cycles, the technology life cycles, are becoming shorter by the day. So
Right.
whether you're a woman who's gone on a 2-year break, or you're a man or a woman who's continued on her journey, you would still have to, keep yourself abreast.
Right.
Take some of
Upgrade
these.
more.
Yeah, yeah. So I would say for some of us, example like for me, who had taken a break, coming back in these newer technologies nullifies that break, because everybody is learning, and I've joined them. I'm
It's a
learning
level
too.
playing field all over again.
Yes, yes, absolutely. That's how I feel.
Interesting. So, taking from what you just shared, a lot of people, I think, understand the value of making a change. I think there's two things that sort of seem like obstacles, if at all. One is uh, just getting started.
Okay.
How do I start, and where do I start, and what do I do? I mean, what are the first four things I could possibly do? And then I think a lot of people do miss out on the networks, on the newer kind of networks. And I think a lot of new product technology uh, uh, is organized around communities. The
Yes.
online communities and offline forums. I think those are two sort of very significant disconnects for somebody. I mean, look at it this way. I'm somebody who stays at home. I definitely have a computer. I'm somebody who who used to work in a corporate office. And now I'm trying to say, one, how do I start? What should I do to get started? Should I just do a random project? Should I just sort of surf the internet? Should I just write random mails? Should I apply to what kind of jobs available? And these are things people end up doing. Right? So, and then is of course, okay, I've started now. Where do I meet more people like this? Where can I ask? Where can I get peer advice? Where can I go for a community? Where can I sort of go find a network?
So I think, yeah, one of your very good question, actually, I'm sure all of us have that at some time, is how do I start now, right? After you've taken a break. I would say, again, the internet is a beautiful thing, right? Google, hopefully when you put up your courses, Venturesity comes up first, but well, even if it doesn't, there are a lot of training courses out there. See, usually we launch our course with a little bit of a social meetup. We advertise on Meetup. So Meetup is a very good meeting community. They meet up for women who want to go on treks, to you want to go out for a dance tonight, to let's build an app and have coffee.
Yes.
Yeah. So Meetups is a very good place to get together. I've also heard, especially in cities like Bangalore, again, let me start with the physical and then we can move on to what happens on the online community. We, there is not a single weekend, I think, in Bangalore that does not have some IT specific physical event going on, right? So just look up one of these calendars, and I would say leave your inhibitions behind, because every person out there has, I mean, these are the beauty of these communities are they're very unstructured. So there's very little expectation from the attendee. You come there, you network, and then some interest comes up and you get together. So one of the common things that's happening nowadays is these hackathons. So that you come together, even if you're not an app builder, you could be a designer, you could just be somebody who's taken part in a project. We need all these skills, all these skills, that none of these skills have lost their value. It's just kind of diversified and disseminated into other roles too, right? So we need all these skills. When we come together, you know how you can still contribute, right, within a group and start something new and fresh. So there are some of these events that happen all the time. There are startup events that are happening, and you don't necessarily have to get into a startup business when you attend some of these. It's just for you to meet people with similar backgrounds and wanting to come back. A lot of them use startups as a place to come back into jobs, to see what's happening new in the space, right? It doesn't have to be just for a job. But again, going back to online communities itself, right? I mean, today we are very familiar with even the Facebook and the Twitter communities out there. Some of the very good professions that I've taken out of there is, like I said, the digital and the content management itself. We know a lot of businesses that exist today that did not exist in the past, even in the last 5 years, because of the extent of, we have these bloggers, and I think women are excellent bloggers, because bloggers, I think, you need to be a emotional writer to kind of connect to people across the screen. So I have seen blogging to be a very pertinent way to kind of come back, understand community, invite other bloggers. Right, it could be a simple thing. You just, like I said, you could meet up to just have coffee over the weekend. But we have a lot of internet communities that are available today. Some of them that I mentioned, the meetups and the startup communities, example that you can get together. Most of these courses, or rather, if you want to come back into serious learning, are actually available online. So as long as you have a computer and maybe some reasonably good internet connection, there are courses available on all of these technologies that I just said. We ourselves do courses on all these tracks. At least in Venturesity, we make sure that these courses are, though they're online, there's a lot of interactive element. So you can actually talk to the instructor who's teaching the course. You can talk to your fellow participants in the course. So there is that sense of community. You can do projects with shared responsibilities. So again, you understand what a teamwork is. Online, as much as there is it's a little bit of a black box. I think for for some people you don't know what's behind the screen. I think once you leave the inhibition behind, there's lots happening in that in that space that you can definitely and one thing I think all of us need to identify is uh, like the we're all similar kind of people. We're all looking for newer opportunities. Everything is new to most people. So when we approach technology, new technologies also with that same attitude, you realize that you actually meet similar people. Especially these startup festivals that I've attended. We have college students, engineering college students, right from second degree, second
Yeah.
year degree, to we have some 50, 60-year-olds who say maybe going through midlife crisis, whatever, right, who just want to come out and say, oh, I think I've done enough of a job, I need to do something on my own. All very interesting people. We've conducted hackathons where we've had 100 plus. We sit all night and we code a beautiful space to commune, right, and leave your families behind for a night. They can manage themselves, yeah, and get back to the industry.
Brilliant. Very exciting, and I think hugely inspiring. So I'm going to, bring up a question which I perceive a lot when talking to a lot of women, which is, you know, uh, it's one that cultural expectation. I think what the services businesses did for a lot of us was they sort of gave us everything very nicely slotted. They set the expectation, the big campus, 3 2 cafeteria culture, where everything is taken care of. Your only job is to do your job well, be good at it, and a certain amount of stability and a certain amount of, I think, strength came with that. It had a lot of weight with it. It also meant fairly stable students. And I think one of the issues that comes up when one is on a relearning mode, you're back to being a student again, your income may not be steady. The environments you work in are slightly unstructured. The cultures you work in are very different. I think the hierarchies go away, the designations don't matter, your work matters. And I think that whole challenge of managing cultural expectations of this transition. And I think nobody talks about it because it's like the unsaid thing. But I think it's something that needs to be talked about. And I'm sure you come across a lot of people, and you sit in Bangalore. I mean, that's the heart of where all of this is happening. Tell me, what do you think?
Yeah, as you rightly said, yes, the hierarchical structure is going away. People with definite roles are going away, right? We believe in more flexible roles. People who take on exactly, actually, as in my introduction too. That's exactly what I said. I joined without knowing what I was up for, but took it in my stride and did what needs to be done every day. Yes, more organizations are working like that today. Uh, uh, so there are both pros and cons of both. Yeah, I would like to say that, like you pointed out, something that we miss is the stability. We miss the like again, like you pointed out, the you're used to a certain regular hours, a regular structure, regular pay, and all that kind of is all blurred these days with the newer technologies and startups. And how we work these days is more about, let's look a little forward. Let's have these telescopic eyes, right? Let's see what's coming, and this is an investment in the future. Yes, I agree that that brings in a little bit of instability. But I think what, especially our community, right, women returning or women transitioning in the IT, how we can look at it is also the flexibility that it gives us, actually. I think a 9 to 5 job today, me with a mother of 2 kids, is something that I actually do not want to do. Right? I do not want to be in a 9 to 5 job. Actually, I do not care for that structure. So, flexibility definitely is something that we should, what do you say, embrace. I think we should actually take that in our stride. I think that's something that, as much as it is negative, if we work towards it, it's more of a positive thing. and more of the newer technologies, all the cloud computing, like I said, work from home, all of these digital marketing, the content management, all of these job profiles allow you to work from home as long as you have a decent computer and ability to network over online. These allow you to work from home. So if you are the ambitious kind, you know what I mean? If you can actually do personal time management, I realize that a lot of the onus now comes to the individual. Can you manage your day? Can you manage your family, right? So, so I mean, as I say it aloud, I realize there are both ways to it, right? If you're good at it, then you can do it. But if you're waiting for somebody to manage your day, your time, your job profile, then it is harder. But I would say for me, it has personally really worked out, right? I can pick profiles of my interest, and when that is so, right, then we know that we give it more than our 100%. So it's not just for women, it has also worked for every working individual out there, right? That they can pick their own profiles. Even within that, you can say, I am not a good people manager. I'd rather sit behind the keyboard. And people are okay with that. Because, yeah, exactly, we don't come with the rigid profiles. Um, Incomes is debatable. Incomes is debatable. I think IT is still probably what gives you some of the better paying jobs, right? I think the value for time is still probably better in IT. So I would, and like I said, some of these newer technologies. I mean, I keep coming back to digital marketing because it's one space that has like totally thrown me off. That's how I honestly came back to digital, to the IT. I took my first course in digital marketing and said, this is not so bad. I actually kind of understand this lingo. Yeah. So some of this is very commonplace. It's something that our kids are doing today. We are doing today. We're on Facebook all the time, and we have these advertisements flashing in our face, right? So it's become a lifestyle, I would say, IT, right? So when we look at it like that, and you say, oh, I'll drop my kid, I'll come back, I'll work for 2 hours, I'll get up, I'll prepare lunch, and again, I'll work for 2 hours. I think it's wonderful. I think today's IT technologies actually enable you to do that. So it always comes. There's always the other side, but to me, it's more positive. It's more progressive than otherwise.
Brilliant. I think this is a conversation after my whole life. Something very relevant. I'll ask one last question before we go. I know we're 1 minute over time, but I'll still ask this. Give us
Sure.
top five hot technologies you would recommend. If I was to look at a learning circle where I was looking to enroll, what are the five things you would say? Look at this. Give me
Yeah.
specific names or courses or.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, like maybe I'm repeating myself, but one of the biggest things that's happening out there is the social media, the digital marketing, right? The SEO technologies, advertising with less money spent. Those are
Mhm.
some of the things. We also call in Venturesity, we call it more growth hacking. So it involves a lot of creativity, and you're not away from people. It needs you to have people skills. It needs you to have technology skills. It needs you to understand the business. I think it's a very wholesome space to be in today. Very well-paying space also. That's definitely one of my biggest, my votes go to that. The next again is the mobile technology. We have a lot of startups based on the mobile technology. You could be an individual contributor. We have a hackathon coming up actually, in the next few days. Tech for Good. I'm sure every weekend, like I said, there's something happening in the mobile technology. That is something that I would take up without blinking an eye. It requires you to be in the IT space a little bit, understand some of these technologies like Java and stuff. But again, for somebody inclined and somebody who's been in it, I don't think it's a far-fetched technology to get into. Um, the other thing that we also profess is the data analytics, of course, right? We have a lot of it was something natural that was going to happen, right? And you have so much abundance data. Yes, you please analyze it. Tell me what's happening with it, right? A lot of stuff on. Again, it comes back to the softer side of business too. You have customer segmentation. How do you understand your product profiling, your customer profiling? How do you target your market? How do you design your thing? So all of that is based out of analytics today. Data analytics is another space that's really growing. Some of the other technologies, like I said, is the cloud computing. You have the Azures and the AWS taking over that space. Another place that has a lot of openings. People would, we believe that one fine day, everything is going to be on the cloud. So that is the technology of tomorrow. Um, so these are some of the more relevant technologies today that you should go into. I spoke about the Internet of Things, so that's where
Right.
the hardware and the software is kind of coming together. I think for somebody like me, right?
Yes.
I've always been a very physical sciences person. Now I say, oh, now I understand how IT makes sense in the real world, right? So I think, iOS really fascinates me. I think I can really see software having an impact on our real lifestyle. So that's another space. Um, as a closing word, you have a lot of institutes out there, Venturesity being one of them, who give you courses, short courses on these. These are very project-oriented, hands-on courses. You can interact with the professionals who are even today, practicing these technologies, and get into the community hands-on. Join the march, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. Wonderful. I think this has been a hugely fruitful conversation. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank
And
you.
we hope to have more of you in the community now that you're a mentor. Maybe
Yes.
we'll request you to, write some of these things for the community and share them.
Sure.
But for now, wonderful having you over. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sari. Thank you for inviting me. And I do hope a lot of women join the gang, yeah?
Yes,
Get that
absolutely.
20.
All right. You have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. You too. Bye.